All right, let's go ahead and get started. I will be sending this recording out, as well as the slide deck that I'm going to present to the other members. So that way, if anyone wasn't able to attend, they can make sure that they can look at the training that we're going to go through. Today's agenda objectives, as I said, we'll be mainly going through the Delphi survey, both starting with the topics that will be in the survey, going through kind of an overarching process, and then I do have a demo where we can jump into the survey itself. It's still being developed, but at least give you guys a look at how it's going to look, how it's going to flow. So let me get this over here. All right. Okay. Once again, our objectives. I'll start by going over the topics. So we've had quite a bit of discussion about how we're going to frame how we're defining social determinants of health. I do want to state that you guys will have the ability within the survey to recommend other topic areas or data elements if you feel like we are missing something. So this is just kind of what we decided as a group to kind of start and frame the project. And that was by looking at the NIN's social determinants of health framework for addressing health inequities. So pretty much what we've done is we've pulled the topics that happen to come out of the literature review based off of the sources that you all recommended. And we tried to bucket it into one of these kind of large groupings, whether it's a structural determinant, social determinant, intermediate, or interpersonal. So that's what we've done so far and broken it up into these kind of topics. There's a lot of information here. These are these kind of major buckets of structural, social, intermediate, and interpersonal. There's kind of factors here in the middle where they're broken down into some type of category within that determinant. And then on the right-hand side is the actual topic itself. I'm going to go into each one of these if you want to take a closer look. This is just all of them in one place if you'd like to look at them as a whole. Structurally, here are the topics that we came once again through the review of sources and that we felt matched with the structural determinants. So here on the right-hand side, housing, immigration, homelessness, and then we all understand that geographic information is very important as well. So the location of whether it is the patient's home address or where the injury occurred, that type of geographic ID. Social status, topics including employment, income, primary language, gender identities, sexual orientation, some topics here. Intermediate determinants, see there on the right-hand side, transportation, clothing, childcare, a little bit more specifics when it comes to like health insurance, healthcare literacy. These topics have been reviewed by Smitty. We've kind of just tried to bucket in the best that we could in the grand scheme of things. Which one of these big determinants it gets applied to isn't really going to matter. We just wanted to make sure that we could in some way conceptualize that it belonged, and we at least wanted to take a look at these specific topics. And then also the order that we're going through them is the order that they'll be in the survey to try and keep some type of consistency for you all. Intrapersonal determinants. Once again, for just kind of following those NIN's framework. So each one of these topics will be included within the Delphi. Once again, in a few minutes, I'll show you kind of what that's going to look like. We also talked about these other kind of topics that we'd like to include in the Delphi, being the different toolkits. So here's a list of the toolkits that were recommended, as well as ensuring that the system is going to have the capability for collecting medical terminology, different standards. So these will be included in the Delphi as well. And it will be do you think that this toolkit should be easily implemented into into the repository so that anyone who collects this toolkit can just very easily dump that data. If you think that we should create that toolkit, then we will. If not, then we won't. Once again, if we have more recommendations from you all on expanding on these toolkits, you'll have the ability to do that in the survey as well. Any questions so far before I move on to a little bit more in depth of how the process is going to work? Great. So first of all, the Delphi survey is going to be completely online. So we will be sending you links pretty much once a month to complete it. It will consist of 3 rounds. And for those 3 rounds, there'll be a 3-week completion period followed by a 1-week analysis. During that 3-week period, I'll be sending reminders out, just letting everybody know, hey, you have 1 week left to do your survey. We expect each round to take a little bit less time. So we may end up expanding this first round to a 4-week period, especially with the holidays. We understand that everybody's really busy around this time with family and traveling and things like that. So we will have a little bit of flexibility. We also understand that the first run through the Delphi is going to have the most data to review. And then as the Delphi goes through, we're going to have less and less things to look at. So overall, we're going to go with a 3-week, but we'll for sure give very specific timelines once each round starts. We do have an 80% agreement for consensus. So if 80% of you believe that a specific data element that's presented should be included in the NTRR, then it will be. If we do not reach that 80% consensus, then that element will continue to roll on into the next round. And then after 3 rounds, eventually we'll circle back and look at all the elements that reach that 80% consensus. And then, of course, if there are some elements that are very close to reaching that, we can have a discussion and see if we can get it across the finish line. If a data element does reach consensus, the data element will still remain in the survey just so that you can reference it and have an idea of what's been approved for inclusion in the system. But you'll no longer be able to kind of interact with that element anymore. That element will have, you won't be able to kind of change your response for it. But we want to make sure that you're still able to get an understanding of what elements are being approved for inclusion. During round 1, you all will have the ability to recommend additional data elements. So if we are talking about if there's a specific topic that you feel that either wasn't covered, or there is a topic, but you feel like there's a data element, a very specific data element for that topic that you think wasn't included, you'll have the ability in round 1 to recommend additional elements that we can then add to the survey for round 2. The scoring, as well as any comments that you leave, are all anonymous. So no one's going to know how you answered which question. And then the comments are also really great because then we can kind of circle back on our monthly meetings for discussion and have kind of a starting point for where we might have some disagreements. And we can see where different people are coming from. And then you'll also be able to see, starting in round 2, any comments that were left from any reviewer in round 1. So once again, completely anonymous. And then, as I said, any type of issues or disagreements, we will still continue to meet monthly as we move through the Delphi to discuss and resolve any particular disagreements that we have. Each work group has had different types of disagreements as we work through this processes. These elements are all very unique, and sometimes it just actually takes a little bit of actual conversation on a monthly meeting to come to an agreement. So that's our overarching overview of the Delphi. I do have some more specifics now of how the process is actually going to work. So we hope to launch the Delphi next week. We want to wait to get past the Thanksgiving holiday, and then the idea being that we end this first Delphi around the first week or so of January. But how this will work is once the Delphi goes live, you will of course be notified by me. So I'll be emailing you, letting you know that the Delphi is going live and it's going to be sent out to you. But you'll be receiving an email from this account here, from the company that we're using to build this Delphi survey. And it's going to look something like this. you've been invited to participate in the survey titled STOH Data Elements Delphi Survey, and then it'll just give you a link to click on, and that'll take you directly to the survey. Pam has already created all of your kind of accounts, so you're not ever going to need to have a login or a password. You'll just essentially every round will send you out a fresh link to enter the survey. There's a little bit more in-depth instructions. These instructions are also going to be on the Delphi Online, so it'll be on the landing page. So if you do need a reminder of how does this process work, I do want to go through these with you all. First of all, each page of the survey is organized into a specific topic area. So those topic areas that I showed kind of at the beginning, the first one, for example, is housing and homelessness. So the first page is just going to be about that. And then when you're done with that page, you'll scroll down to the bottom and move on to the next topic. Data elements with a given topic area that have already been selected by other work groups are displayed at the top of each page. So we have other work groups that have already completed this process, and some have already looked at housing, for example. So at the top of that housing page, you'll see what were the elements that some other work group has recommended already, and then how would we like to expand on that topic, or would we like to expand on that topic? So you will be able to review the data elements, definitions, permissible values from previously selected before moving on to those that are going to be presented to you. You're also welcome to make comments in the box next to each data element. So if there's one specific element that you really think is the best one that's provided, by all means leave that comment. So that way, when we come to round 2, people can see your rationale for why that element you think is preferred. Consider whether any of the alternative data elements are preferable and rate them according to whether you want to include, exclude, or whether you don't have an opinion. As I said, you can always leave a comment, and those will be available for all other reviewers to see in the subsequent rounds. Oh, sorry, go back here. Alternate definitions or permissible values are presented in the order of precedence. So the NTRR Executive Steering Committee has decided where should we be pulling existing CDEs from, and then those and in a very particular order, and they are presented to you in that order. So on the landing page, there is a chart that we have a link for you where you can go to see what that order of precedence is. And then, as I said, if you believe that there's an important data element that's missing at the end of the survey, you'll have the ability to very specifically recommend the addition of other elements. Any questions before I show you guys the actual survey? All right. So we will send out a link, and when you click on that link, it's going to take you to this landing page here. The instructions that I just went over on that last slide are given to you here again, if you do need a reminder of kind of the process. Down here at the bottom, there's supporting documents. So if you'd like to just take a look at all the data that's in the survey, you can download the Excel file. That will be there for you. You just want to look at it all at once, or even open it up on another, screen while you go along. That'll be there for you. There are some CDEs that are defined as core CDEs that have already been adopted. Those will be within the survey, but there are some, these are kind of the elements that were very first adopted from all this work that we've been doing. So because those have been officially adopted and are already created in the system, if you want to look at those are available here. It's, I think, literally 10 elements, but they are looking at things like sex at birth, race, things like that. And then that order of precedence chart that I mentioned is, you have a link here if you're curious, the order that the definitions are presented to you. When it comes to navigating the survey, you'll just click this bottom. There'll always be kind of this bottom arrow here at the bottom. So you just click on that, and it'll take you to the next page. And this is essentially what each one of the pages will look like. At the very tippy top will be the specific topic that we're looking at. So in this case, housing or homelessness. There's a very brief descriptor here of instructions. So below is the already adopted data element for this topic that was recommended by a previous work group. So that's right here. There's already been a element that has to do in some way with housing. So I want to make sure that that's provided to you all. If you believe that this element, this already adopted element, is insufficient for collecting information about this topic, please review the other data elements below and indicate whether you wish to include one or more for this topic. So we have the already adopted element, and then below there we have other elements related to housing and homelessness. Once again, these are then following that order of precedence chart. So we have FITBR, NTDS, and NINS. Once again, if you think that there's another element out there that you think just captures this topic perfectly, then we would love to get that feedback from you, and then we can add it in starting in round 2. Starting with the already adopted topic, if you have thoughts on why this topic isn't sufficient, or you think that it is, you can feel free to add your comments here. And then when it comes to the different other elements that have to do with housing at the bottom, we have the option to exclude if you think that it's just not a good definition, no opinion if maybe just this isn't your particular subject area of expertise, and then include if you think that this is a really good definition, we should add this one into the system. You'll notice we have quite a few here. Sometimes there'll be a lot, sometimes there won't be very many. That's just the nature of who's collecting what and who's created a CDE for it. We will say that we're trying to make sure that if we are creating another element, that it's providing value that this already adopted doesn't. And kind of similar to that, if we have two elements that are down here that are extremely similar to one another, ideally you would pick to include one and exclude the other. You have the ability to recommend including more than one of these, but once again, ideally you would only be selecting more than one if you feel like they are distinct. Sometimes they're going to be even asking different questions, but they're all related to, let's say, housing.
Nick, I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens if, say, this group picks one that seems to be superior to the one selected by a previous group? I mean, is there a chance of overriding the other group and using one that this group selects? Or will it always be an additional element?
So what will happen is this element will automatically be recommended or reviewed by the CDE steering committee. And what will happen is if we have another element that's in this same topic area, is those two will be kind of grouped together when it comes to this group's recommendations. And then the CDE steering committee and then eventually the executive committee could then make a determination whether they think that the two are distinct enough to create both, or we will have a this group doesn't, if this group doesn't prefer the top and they actually want to replace it with another one, then essentially that's something we would write up in our white paper and make as a recommendation, and then they will at least understand why this group believes that it should be replaced. So yes, we have the ability to do that if we feel that that's if we feel that there's something that's just superior.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions over how each one of these pages for each topic will be structured? Once again, I know this is a lot. Most of them are not going to have this many. Some of them actually will have just a single, and it will be, hey, here's what's already been adopted. We could only find one other. Those pages might move rather quickly. We have about 40 or so topics to go through. And as I said, it should get easier and easier as we go through if things reach consensus. When you do get to the end of the topics, you will have one more slide going over the toolkits. So those will be on there as well for your review. And then you'll have this final slide, which is, are there any additional data elements or topics that you think should be considered? So by all means, if there's specific elements, like let's say for housing, that you think we should pull, you can feel free to leave a comment here or literally in any of these boxes. If you think that we should add and pull another definition to put down here in the bottom, we can do that. This is more of a, hey, is there a big topic that we are just missing right now that we need to start pulling information from and create a whole new page for that topic. Then there'll just be kind of a next steps page at the end of, hey, thanks for completing round 1. I'll be sure to reach out when we move on to the next round. I'll, of course, be sending reminders when rounds are closing. And then the idea is that we'll do 3 rounds with, once again, meetings as we go through to try and make sure we're all on the same page and delve out any questions or concerns people have. Any questions over the survey structure? Awesome. So timeline-wise, we'd like to launch round 1 here, ideally next week, so the beginning of December, and then close it in the beginning of January, and then take a week or so off in between. Gives us time to run the statistics and determine what's reached consensus and update the survey. And then launch round 2 sometime in January, repeat the process, and launch round 3 sometime in February. Then the idea is with these meetings, we're kind of knocking things out as we go, and then having 1 or 2 meetings after the Delphis are completed to put together our overall recommendations, and then send those to the CDE steering committee. So next steps, I'm trying to launch Delphi next week, with it being kind of I think what we'll set is kind of the first week of January. We'll give a nice 4-week period here at the beginning with the holidays and all that. I'll reach out as soon as the survey goes live. So you'll get an email from me letting you know that you're about to receive the survey. And then you'll immediately then get the email from Calibrum where you'll be able to go directly to the survey. And then once again, this is that email. So I'll remind you guys, depending on your email security, it may go to your spam, especially with our military folks. We tend to be seeing that. But I'll send out a reminder to check that, and reminders, of course, along the way. Any questions for me today? Awesome. So I'll be sending out, you'll hear from me. I'll send out the recording of this, of course, to the rest of the work groups, as well as the slides. So if you do have any questions, you can review that. And then I'll be reaching out once the survey goes live. I need to get with Smitty, since he's our fearless leader, to make sure we can set up something for the beginning of the year. I think that will be the next time that we meet, will be after the new year and after round 1 has closed. So that's kind of the next thing that you'll look out for is once I can get kind of a timeline set up with him, then we'll get that scheduled and we'll get the Delphi running. And that's all I have for y'all today. So if you don't have any other questions, thank y'all so much. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the process.
Thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
Holidays, everybody.
Bye all. Take care.